I'm Diep, and we're your token theater friends. Tell us about your fruit plays and how you conceived of them.
I was commissioned to do a play about immigrants and refugees by a wonderful theater in Britain called the West Yorkshire Playhouse, and ended up writing a piece about a woman who was escaping sex slavery and hoping to get asylum in another country. And so that play was the beginning of this, called Avocado, because she was stuck in an avocado warehouse and truck or whatever whatever it is, a truck, a boat. We don't really know exactly what it is. And then that led to me being commissioned by La Repubblica in Italy to do a piece on what was happening to women who were being sold to ISIS as sex slaves, and essentially having their bodies being sold at market, which was so surreal. And so I kind of wrote a surrealistic piece around that. And then the third piece grew out of my belief that coconut oil is mystical and takes us on journeys. So it's really the story of a woman who is rubbing coconut oil on her body and goes on a mystical journey.
I was reading Avocado actually, and something struck me, and I thought it was really beautiful. And it's how you're able to, in words, capture what I could only describe as feeling and thinking. And I was wondering if you can share, your process into taking mental processes and almost dream processes and turning them into words fit for stage.
That's a really good question. I don't know if I can even describe it. I mean, I think with all three of these pieces, the desire as writing it was to climb so far inside these women that I was feeling what they were feeling. Do you know, to just go so far inside that we could feel and feel and feel and feel what they were feeling, and then that would give language. Do you know? And because I think, but all these pieces are rooted in women fighting for their lives in some ways, and finding either a mental approach or a physical approach or a imaginative approach for survival.
Yes, I was so overwhelmed in a good way, I would say, by In the Body of the World, and how you are able to remind us that the theater is there for us to escape, but you're also inviting us to activism. Can you talk a little bit about this dynamic of theater as a sanctuary, but also as a place for activism right now?
And I think it's interesting because I think sanctuary and fire are very close together, right? You know what I mean? That um, I just think at this point in time, where we are in the world with all of the terrible things that are going on, whether it's the environment, whether it's this hatred of immigrants and this destruction of beautiful people who are coming to this country, whether it's the desecration of black people on every front, whether it's the ending of reproductive rights, we could just go on. Theater has to be a place where people are activated. We all have to be awake right now. We all have to be involved right now. We're on a sinking ship. We're in the burning. The burning is happening right now. And out of this could come an amazing future if we're using our imaginations and if we're in collective solidarity and if we're knowing that we are the people who are creating that future. And theater's got to help people be reminded that they are the ones creating that future. I think there was a time you could be passive. You could go to the theater and you could be entertained, and there could be musicals, and there could be, and there's nothing wrong with entertainment, but it's kind of like as the boat is sinking, you might want to find the exit, or you might want to find how we're going to get to the next place after the boat sinks,
Right. And I also think ignoring it is a luxury.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And I think one of the things that happened, unfortunately, to theater is it's become so expensive that mainly and a lot of the times only wealthy people can see it. And so the people who are in real struggle, the people who don't have the luxury of escaping, whether they're poor, whether they're working 8 jobs, whether they're being attacked for being black, you just name what it is, those are the people who we want in the theater so that they can be. We want everybody, but we want those people to be really lifted up and engaged and part of a collective so they don't feel alone and excluded and by themselves.
Right, and for the Fruit Trilogy, you have two wonderful women of color playing the different roles in these plays. And so, what is your strategy in making this piece accessible and the casting level?
I think for most of my career, I have cast, and I mean, if you begin looking back, I was thinking this the other day, like Vagina Monologues. I actually had a contract, a rule in the contract that a woman of color had to be cast in every group that performed it, and it was great because guess what? They performed it. Guess what? It traveled into communities of color and it became something that was owned by those communities. And I think in this case it could have been a lot of different women who performed this parts, but I actually feel like Liz and Kiersey were the best women for the parts.
Like, so how does it feel now to have this thing that you wrote, the Vagina Monologues, and do you feel like it's still yours, or do you feel like it belongs to?
Oh, it's belonged to the world for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. It took flight a long time ago.
And what were your reactions when you heard that it made the New York Times 25 best plays in the last 25 years?
Well, I was honored on one level, really honored, and of course it's an honor.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always wary of ratings and judgings and who,
Mm-hmm.
right, like, and who decides and who makes that determination. And you fall by the sword, you die by the sword, you rise by the sword.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's great to be included, and it's great for the work to be recognized, of course. But I also know there are many playwrights who didn't get on that list. And I know how I would be feeling today if I wasn't on that list. I would be feeling really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to create thinking of systems with artists where it's not comparing, but sharing. It's not rating, but creating. Do you know what I mean? We need, and it's not pitting us so that one gets all the food and other people starve, but that we all get to be part of a community. And sometimes when you set these hierarchies up, it's hard to be friends then, and it's hard to be connected. And I'm not saying that in a critical way, because we haven't learned any other better systems yet.
Yeah.
But maybe they could do something every few weeks where they share how many wonderful playwrights there are and what they're doing, and so we spread the love. Do you know what I mean? Because I think there are many young playwrights out there, or other playwrights, who have been doing extraordinary work, and their work needs to be recognized and seen.
Wait, so do you watch award shows?
I try not to,
Yeah.
but sometimes I find myself drawn in. The friends are there,
Mhm.
Yeah. I think our award in this business or in this world is doing our work.
Mm.
And having audiences come and seeing the impact we have on audiences. And I think, unfortunately, because it's a business, as my friend was saying today, we get caught up in reviews and awards and selling and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think the theater's about selling. I think the theater's about transforming our consciousness and waking us up and moving our hearts and juggling our ideas and shaking us out of our complacency. And so it's always interesting to have to interface with the system in trying to get your work done. How do you hold on to those values while at the same time, right?
Mhm.
You have to participate in a structure that you don't necessarily believe in.
So, what I'm struggling with right now is just staying positive, because it feels like every time we move forward in progress, we always move back. And so, what has been your strategies for staying hopeful?
That's a good question. Um, I was in Manila last year, and I was in Tondo, which is a slum there, and we were talking about hope. And the people are so poor there, and they're so beautiful, and they're so kind, in spite of the incredible poverty in that slum. And we were talking about hope, and a woman said, "Oh, we can't afford not to hope here." You see, that's the luxury of people who have money. If we don't hope, we die. And it really changed my whole vision of everything. I realized, like, that is a lack of gratitude not to hope, right? We have to hope, because the people who are living in the worst conditions, if they didn't have that vision of a possible another day, they would perish. And I think, I'm a real Beckett fan. I can't go on. I must go on. We will go on. I feel like, why not? Why not go on? Like, we're going to die anyway. We might as well just keep going on and seeing what happens next. It's all absurd. the whole living is absurd. What are we doing
Mhm.
here? God knows, It all just seems really wild and unfathomable and mysterious, and we're never going to find it out until the last moment, probably. But I think the things that give me hope are the women in Congo at City of Joy who have turned and are turning their lives around. The people who give me hope are the activists on the front lines who get up every day and find a
Mhm.
way to give hope to their constituencies when they have nothing. And art gives me hope. Seeing people come into the theater and, having a man in the body of the world tell me he'd been there 3 times and it had been a healing. Seeing young women break forward and tell their story after coming to the Vagina Monologues. Seeing a young girl be proud to wear her short skirt. I mean, that gives me hope. When we see people change, when we see people lifted, when we see people come together, that's hopeful. And, I just say, why not hope? It's so much more interesting than not hoping. I mean, if you're not hoping, you're just depressed. And who wants to be depressed? It's a horrible state to be in. So,
Mhm.
like, I kind of like the idea of just kind of bizarrely hoping, you have nothing to lose.
That's true. Can't get any worse, right?
Exactly. And it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
When you're not hopeful, you just feel like shit,